Welcome to Green is Good, raising awareness of each individual's impact on the environment and helping to create a more beautiful and sustainable world. Now, here's John Shigarian, Chairman and CEO of Electronic Recyclers International, and Mike Brady.
Hey, Mike, it's great to see you, and welcome to Green is Good. It's great to be back here with you.
Always a pleasure, John. Our mission is to entertain, inform, and empower our audience, and just to make the world a better place by taking care of our environment.
And, Mike, it's so much fun doing the show with you because you and I are from the same generation, and we see the world so similarly in many ways. And we're really lucky today because our show is going to take a new turn that we've never taken before.
Okay.
A musical turn, which was something that we both love.
Absolutely.
So when you were growing up, come on now, truth be known, what was your 2 or 3 or 4 top favorite rock and roll bands?
Okay, well, growing up in Southern California, of course, and by the ocean, Beach Boys were definitely top 5.
Oh, they're there.
Okay, but I mean, as far as really just laying down some good rock and roll, I would have to say probably The Who, definitely the Rolling Stones. Stones were there. And I like kind of like country rock, kind of folky stuff, too. So the Byrds, Roger McGuinn's 12-string guitar. But really, I would say probably of all those groups, my favorite rock group would be the Stones.
Wow. You know what? And I'm with you. I grew up in the same era. I grew up on the East Coast, and I was a big Aerosmith guy. They're from Boston.
Sure.
And I'm big Stones, and also I'm a little bit of Eagles.
Okay, there you go.
Little Eagles. A little softer, but Stones are big. And we are so lucky today. We have the keyboardist from the Rolling Stones, who's been with the Stones since 1981. We got Chuck Leavell on the phone today on our show.
That is amazing. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get after it.
Let's get him because this show is going to be unbelievably great. We're honored today to have Chuck Leavell on with us. Chuck's calling in from Atlanta, and Chuck is, we all talk about on Green is Good, Mike. We talk about having people who are doing stuff for the environment. I think sometimes we refer to them as green rock stars.
Yeah, or greenies or green rock stars.
We really have today a green rock and roll star, one of the co-founders of the Allman Brothers Band, and he's been the keyboardist for the Rolling Stones since 1981. Chuck, this is really, truly an honor for Mike and I to have you on the show on Green is Good today. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it's great to be with you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to talking to you.
So Chuck, 1981, you've been with the Stones, and now you've taken your celebrity and you've gone green. You're one of the guys who have really been doing the green revolution before it even came to America. When did you turn green? When did you become environmentally conscious?
Well, I'm a child of the 60s, and back when we were having the cultural revolution that was going on during that time, environmentalism was discussed quite a lot amongst us and our, society circles. And, I think it probably started with me back then, but in terms of really becoming active and getting directly involved, that happened more around the 1981 period. You mentioned that was the year I first got together with the Rolling Stones, which is true, but it was also the year that my wife's grandmother passed away and left her a parcel of land and that had been a farm. Her family for generations have been connected to the land, either as farmers or folks that tend forest land and just very, very in touch with the outdoors and very passionate about outdoor issues. And so when it became our responsibility to carry on that heritage of stewardship in 1981, that's when I really got directly involved.
And is that the famous Charlene Plantation you're referring to?
Well, it is indeed. Thanks for bringing it up. And we absolutely love what we do here. We are tree farmers, and perhaps, as you know, back in 1999, we were selected as the National Outstanding Tree Farm of the Year, which was a tremendous honor for us and something that we took very seriously and that we still take seriously. And we love working the land. we love our involvement with the environment, and just hope that we're making a positive difference.
So we've never talked about tree farms, and it's a wonderful topic. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit, Chuck? What is a tree farm, and what does it actually do you do on the Charlene Plantation? We've heard of it, but we want to know what actually happens there.
Well, it's a great question, really. What is a tree farm? There are so many different kinds of tree farms, as you might imagine, John. There's tree farms that are engaged with growing trees that may bear fruit or nuts, or that kind of thing. There's also tree farms that are more focused, as we are, on long-term growth of wood for various usages, whether it's used for to make lumber products that help build our homes and schools and churches, or that products that go into making books and magazines and newspapers. Don't forget that most musical instruments come from the resource of wood. So, I wouldn't have that incredible thing called a piano to play if it weren't for the resource of wood, nor would my pal Keith Richards have those guitars, those wonderful guitars, and so many other musical instruments come from wood. So there's a lot of different types of tree farms. Now, we're engaged mostly in what we call southern yellow pine here in this region of the world. The South is a fertile place to do this, and we've been very successful at it. But let me just mention that going forward, other than the things that I've just mentioned, what tree farms like mine, and people that are engaged in this long-term effort of managing forest lands, are providing clean air, clean water. As you guys know, there's this huge discussion going on now in Congress about climate change, and it's very important that we recognize the roles that working forests have in that regard. Those of us that are engaged in this are indeed helping to provide clean air to the general public, and I think it's important for people to recognize that. Also, one other subject that's being discussed a lot these days is biomass. We're all wanting to get away from the foreign oil dependency. That's another tremendous discussion that's going on in the country. And in addition to wonderful things like solar and wind energy, we want to include biomass. Our trees and other cellulosic material can be used to make electricity, can be used in gasification processes, and also to make liquid fuels. And so I think there's a lot of bright spots, but it's also a great opportunity for me to be able to explain to folks all of the things that wood can do for us.
That is amazing. So since 1981, you and your wife have been doing that. And so give us the bridge from 81. Now we're in 2009, and the Green Revolution looks like it's here to stay in the United States, and we're thankful for that. But now, how did you get from there to the Mother Nature Network, which I've been on the site 200 times. It's one of the greatest environmental websites. It's actually sort of new, but you've already made a huge splash in the environmental industry and in the general public. Tell us, how did you get from there to here, and what's your vision and goal with the Mother Nature Network?
Well, first of all, thanks for bringing it up. MNN, Mother Nature Network, MNN.com, did just come online this year in January. I'll give you the short of it. My partner, who's a brilliant man up in Atlanta, Joel Babbitt, approached me, and Joel's been in the public relations and advertising business all his life, and he came to me and he said, "Man, all of my clients are wanting to do better by the environment, and in doing so, they want to get their messages out, and I'm in public relations and advertising, so they're coming to me and saying, where do we need to be to get these messages out?" And Joel said, more and more people are going to the Internet for information. So he was telling his clients, big companies like Dell Computer, AT&T, and others of similar size, telling them, well, you need to have an exposure on the Internet. And in the research that he did, he called me and he said, "Man, I've been advising my clients about this, but I can't find any really wonderful, great, iconic website dedicated to environmental issues." He said, "I would like for you to research it yourself and tell me what you think. Well, I did. And, of course, I was familiar with a whole range of sites that have been there for a long time. By the way, there's hundreds and hundreds of sites out there, as you guys might know, because you've probably been to them as well. But, our feeling was that while there were sites out there, none of them really just stood out and covered all the territory. Look, there's a lot of great organizational sites, like River Keepers, for instance, or Nature Conservancy, or even Al Gore's site, which is a fantastic technologically advanced site. But all of those sites are focused on one thing. River Keepers is on rivers. Nature Conservancy is on their land issues. Al Gore's site is strictly climate change. There was nothing out there that we felt was covering everything.
Chuck,
yes.
When we come back from the commercial, you're going to tell our listeners why and how then you launched the MNN.com and how you've gone from a small website in January to one of the leading environmental websites now in the world. We want to hear the story when we're back from our sponsors of Green is Good.
If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Hey, welcome back to Green is Good. We are so honored and thankful to have Chuck Leavell on. He's live from Georgia today. He's on the phone, and he's telling us how he started the great website, MNN.com, MotherNatureNetwork.com, which has gone from a small little website started in January to now one of the leading environmental green websites in the world. Chuck, we're going to pick up where we left off. You're saying how all the websites that were out there were very focused on one or two topics, and how you then had the vision to create MNN.com. Go on. You pick up where you left off, Chuck.
Oh, great. Thanks, John. Well, as I was saying, we found that there were these organizational sites that indeed, as you mentioned, were focused on one subject, whether it might be, rivers, or it might be land issues, or in the case of Al Gore's site, which again is a wonderful site, it's strictly all about climate change. And so we decided, wouldn't it be a good idea if we built a site that covered all of this territory and also did it in a voice that people could understand? That was another thing that we found, guys, was that you take some of the governmental sites, for instance. They're actually some of the most accurate and well-vetted sites. But, man, you've got to be a rocket scientist to understand, what they're talking about. They're just not written in a way that speaks to every man, and every woman. So that's what we decided to do. We wanted to build a site that would be engaging, informative, educational, real, run by people that are talented and dedicated environmentalists, and that's what we've done. We've put together an incredible team. Some of our folks have come from places like National Geographic, for instance, or CNN, Weather Channel, and other places that have talented and dedicated environmentalists there. So we launched in January, and in the short 6 months that we've been out there, we're already in the top 10, and our goal is to be number one by the end of this year, of 2009.
No reason you can't be. So really, you're a one-stop resource and sort of an every man and every woman's eco-guide to environmental news. You've democratized the process.
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Let me mention one other thing.
Sure.
There was a major research study done on people's attitude towards the environment about a year ago. This study by Yankelovich was done. And basically what it found was that there's 5 buckets in the United States in terms of attitude and desire to learn more about environmental issues. On the very far low end of the scale, you got something like 13% of folks that honestly just don't care and probably never will. And then on the other extreme, you have people that have been concerned with environmental issues for decades and are very, very in tune. But what you have in the middle, of the 3 buckets, if you will, in the middle, is over 60% of the people that are coming on board now. They see that we need to make these changes. They want to make the changes, but they need the information. They're saying, where do I go, And, again, more and more people go to the Internet. They may see an ad, they may read an article, and then they want to learn more. And so they go to the internet to study and learn more. So that's another reason we wanted to put this together.
And on a day, and we know you have a day job. We love your music and we love what you do with the Stones. So we know you have a very, very good and great day job. What do you do day to day with regards to MNN.com? What's your role? Like, how do you really roll your sleeves up, and what do you do over there?
Well, it's wonderful because for the first time in my life, I have an office. I'm an executive, man.
You have an office and it's not on a stage, you mean?
That's great.
I joke about that because it is such a different thing for me. But to answer your question, I am, first of all, a co-founder along with my friend Joel Babbitt. So, we were there in the beginning. But I have two video programs on the Mother Nature Network. One is called Love of the Land, and so I go out and I find stories about people that are perhaps doing something especially good for land, or maybe they're facing a certain challenge, and do these little 2.5 to 5 minute video clips about that subject matter, and that's been a lot of fun. The other program is a little more lighthearted, and it's also very interesting. It's called In the Green Room. Nice double entendre there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is conversations with other people of note. They might be fellow musicians or songwriters or singers or performers, but they might be artists or CEOs of companies or actors or whatever that have a particular environmental concern. For instance, if you will, Chevy Chase.
Sure.
And his wife, Janie. Janie does this marvelous thing where she takes a carbon audit of public schools and then advises them how they can do better. And, Chevy's, of course, supporting her, and I interviewed the two of them together, and he's hilarious, as you know. And what a lot of people don't know, Chevy's an amazing piano player.
Come on.
No, he's great. Chevy started out, a little trivia for you, as a drummer with Becker and Fagan, the precursor to Steely Dan.
Right.
Wow.
Did not know that.
But he had a lifelong love of music and learned at a young age. So anyway, folks like that, I interviewed John Bell of Widespread Panic, and got some other great ones that will be coming up before too long. Willie Nelson, Derek Trucks. Derek is a fellow tree farmer, and, of course, Willie has his marvelous efforts with Farm Aid and with biodiesel efforts and that sort of thing. So I have the two programs, and then my title is Director of Environmental Affairs, so I also keep a close eye on all the stories that come across the website.
And of course, music is in your bones and your DNA, and so now that you have an office, go back then to music. Tell us a little bit about what role does the environment really play in your music, and then take all the friends that you've made over all the years in your musical world, and what role do the musicians play, and should they play, in the environmental movement?
Well, first of all, we mentioned the connection between the nature and music earlier, and that is being a tree farmer, the fact that so many musical instruments come from the resource of wood. But there's a lot of other musicians out there that care about these issues. Sting certainly has made some great positive changes in his rainforest efforts. I think that's wonderful. And I recently played with him for the first time, by the way, in a bit of benefit concert.
Wow.
And so he's a figure that stands out. In the annual Vanity Fair Green issue, I was in that a couple of years ago, and Alanis Morissette was in there, and Jackson Browne. Jack Johnson is another name that stands out. So there's a lot of folks out there that want to make a difference and that are making a difference.
Do you feel like you've inspired them to really take their celebrity and do some great work with regards to the environment? Are you part of the leadership? It seems like that to us.
Oh, well, it's very kind of you to say. I would have to let others answer that question.
Okay.
But I'm happy to do what I am doing, and I always enjoy running into others that are like-minded. And as I said, there's a lot of other like-minded folks out there. But look, it doesn't, musician, insurance salesman, car salesman, radio personalities, guys, this is an issue that encompasses everybody. And I think I really believe, and I think you'll agree with me, that in the last, say, 5 years, the sleeping giant that is America is waking up to these challenges, and they're saying, you know what, we better start making some changes. We have an administration now that is trying to put some things forward, and I think we're all happy about that. Work on climate change, work on energy issues, and that sort of thing. Encourage people to use and drive cars that are kinder to the environment, and look at their house and see what they can do to reduce that. By the way, I'm writing a new book now called Smart, Strong, and Sustainable, and that book will deal with growth issues. One of the challenges we have, guys, there's over 6 billion people on this little round ball now, and there's over 300 million here in our country. That's a tremendous amount of pressure on our natural resources, on our planet. So, look, the fact is we're going to have this growth. I don't think you're going to see it stop. You may see it slow down to a degree, and I think that would probably be a positive thing if it did slow down, but it's going to be there. And so the question becomes, is the growth that we're going to have going to continue to be rampant, rapid, and reckless, or can it be smart, strong, and sustainable? And that's the subject of the book.
When is your book coming out? What's your goal?
Well, we're about halfway through with it now, and, I don't want to put deadlines on it. I'm working with a wonderful co-writer that I've worked with in the past, Jeff Craig. He's a great writer, and two of us are working hard, but the hope would be, it's going to be a challenge to get it out by the end of the year, so probably spring of next year, I would think.
When so many of our listeners are part of corporate America, what's the inspirational advice can you lend to entrepreneurs and other people who want to be like Chuck, who want to either make a green difference by starting a green business, or they want to green their existing business? What advice, what couple of pearls of wisdom can you share with them?
Well, first of all, there are, and I love to model things. I love to look at other companies that, in this particular subject matter, companies that are making a difference. For instance, Dell Computer, and I have to admit, I'm a Mac guy, okay?
Okay.
But I've met Michael Dell, and Michael Dell is a smart guy, and he is very committed to his company being green. As a matter of fact, his statement is to have zero carbon footprint.
Right.
And now what he's done is he's gone in and looked at all of his buildings, all of his factories and offices and everything, and said, what can we do do we need to insulate? Do we need to change anything in the structure of the buildings themselves? What can we do to our air conditioning, heating systems? How can we be wiser about the architecture, basically? How can we be wiser about energy use? Do we need to put timers on the walls or the motion sensors when people are coming in and out? That sort of thing. All of those are very important to look at. And then after you make all the differences you can, and by the way, also look at recycling those products that don't need to go into a landfill that might contain mercury, components of computers that might contain mercury and so forth. So you need to make sure that those things are properly taken care of, and that's an outreach that he does with his customers and with his distributors. But then, at the end of the day, if you're doing all of this and you are seeing that you still have a carbon footprint, what he does is he offsets that by doing things like donating money to plant trees.
Right.
So, again, we're about to enter in this conversation deeply about climate change and carbon offsets and cap and trade. These are coming in now. People need to study up on this. They need to be more aware of it so that we can make intelligent decisions going forward.
So, it's so exciting to speak with you, Chuck, and so inspirational because now that you have an office, it sounds like you're really loving your new career here. I mean, and so our question is, what's the goal? Where do you want to take this? I mean, the opportunities sound limitless. In the next 10 years, where do you want to take this, and how do you want to be? What do you want your legacy to be with regards to everything you've done with your music is already set, and we all know and love that. But now you have a chance to change the world, our friend. And what do you want? What's your legacy going to be?
Well, that will have to become apparent 10 years from now. But what you ask what the goal is, and the goal is simply to make as much a positive difference as we can. That's what we're trying to do with the Mother Nature Network, to give people the information and the inspiration and the education that they need to make the changes in their own lives. Because, look, the old adage of if we all do a little bit of something, it adds up to an amazing difference that we can make. And, for those that say, just one person's not going to really make it. Yes, they will make a difference. Everything that you do will make a difference.
And that is such great advice to our listeners. And Chuck, we're winding down to the end of the show, unfortunately, but I'm going to ask you to agree to one thing. Your story is we could sit and talk to you for hours on end. When your site, by the end of this year, we're betting on you, when your site becomes number one, will you come back on our show, Green is Good, and share with Mike and I the journey, the wonderful journey that you're on?
Absolutely, my friend. I'll be more than happy to do that. I'd love to talk to you guys anytime.
Chuck, and
I've got one question, Chuck. We talked about you being a musician, and now what you're doing, you have an office. I've got to ask you this question. It's been killing me. But behind your desk, instead of a chair, do you have a piano bench?
Well, I have to be full disclosure here. I have an office, but I'm hardly ever there. I am, however, often working here at my house, and yes, I have a piano in my office here in my house. I have a piano. I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pianos around my place here.
Wow!
So I don't want to be too far away from those ivories. And by the way, I'm because of my efforts with Mother Nature Network, certainly doesn't mean I'm hanging up my rock and roll shoes. I'm hoping that my British friends get cranked up here maybe by next year, and I'm working on a new CD myself, and I have session work going on all the time. So. Very fortunate in that regard, too.
Well, you got 2 fans here in studio and thousands and millions of fans all out there in Radio Land. And Chuck, we're just so honored and thankful for your time today. We look forward to having you back. We wish you so well. And it's so inspirational to have a living legend on the phone with us on Green is Good. Chuck, you are really a rock star, and you are really living proof that green is good.